This episode of Monty's Minute is brought to you by Audible. Head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker TV for a free book and 30-day trial.
Gamebreaker TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Monty's Minute, episode number 11 for December... No, it's episode 13 for December 11th. Getting my numbers screwed up there. Episode 13 for December 11th, 2012. I'm Gary again, and you're watching Monty's Minute, the show where you have questions about the video game industry, and Monty answers them. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Monty Sharma. How are you, sir?
I'm fabulous, Gary. How you doing?
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, let's jump into it. So this week we've got a first question up from Jonathan Munoz. He says, "Hey, Monty, kudos to you and Gary on the awesome show. Thank you. Kudos for watching. I've been wondering why large studios and publishers don't take more indies under their wings, leave the indies full creative freedom and provide backing in the form of funding/marketing. This setup potentially has everyone walking away happy with money in their pockets and more innovation for games. Is it too small of a return on the studio/publisher side, or indies not wanting to become affiliated with them, or possibly other issues such as IP retention, revenue split, etc., etc.? Regards, Jonathan Munoz." What do you think? Why don't the big boys take more indies?
A couple of things. One, they don't need to. So, if you're EA, you've got a problem. Your problem is you need to make $4 billion a year. So that's, $1 billion a quarter. And yeah, you'll make more in fourth quarter or whatever, but $1 billion a quarter means you need a major game each quarter. So, think, Call
of Duty,
Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, you need that size of a game once every quarter. You're going to lose 30% of that to the retail channel and things like that. So you make up the other 30% with all of your other titles, your back catalog, online sales, that sort of stuff. So in that sort of an environment, and that's what they have to make now, but if they want their stock to go up, they have to make more. So in that sort of environment, right, they're not particularly interested in small projects. So if you have a project that's going to make, $1 million, that's a lot to you and me. It's nothing to them. They're not even going to look at it, and you probably get fired for suggesting it. So one is they need to make a lot of money. Two, managing something like this, even if you gave them complete freedom and you just had somebody doing a little oversight, that means one of your senior, director level to VP level guys has something that's tugging them that isn't part of that making $4 billion a year. So the distraction factor isn't particularly worth it. The third thing, and probably the biggest thing, is big companies, and this is true in all tech industries. If you look at somebody like EMC and Google, any of those guys, what they do is they let the market be a filter. So the problem is you can't tell from an idea whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. You can't tell that this indie team who made this little game is going to be able to make it, better or come up with an idea that's worth being in your portfolio. So what you do is you stand back and you see if they can raise money. And if they raise money, that's good. That gets them to a certain point. See if they can put a game out. They put the game out, and if the game's decent, well, we could just step in and buy them. And, paying $10 million, $20 million then, instead of giving them $1 million up front, is actually good math. You end up with more good companies that become part of your studio network than if you tried to help the small guy.
Cuts out a lot of the risk factor. They can just sit back and wait for the hit, wait for you guys to actually start playing the game, and then they can kind of scoop you in. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, step up and say, hey, we want you for the next game. That's what they do also with contract developers. Here's a contract, go work on this. Hey, we like these guys. They're good. They hit targets. They're easy to work with. Here's another one. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, they can repeat. Let's buy them.
Are you seeing more companies, like smaller companies, though, starting to crop up that, obviously probably don't have the reach of the really big boys, but they're really well-organized companies solely focusing on this area, looking to pick up these smaller indies?
It's hard because to actually pick up the indies, you need to have a bankroll. So you need to have a lot of money in the bank. And that becomes tough when you've got, a mid-sized company. And so, if you think about the guys running Minecraft or, Angry Birds or anything like that, they're making a lot of money, but they're spending all of their time just trying to keep their game moving forward. You've got constant complexity when, folks like Big World, Jagex has tried it, a few other of the, let's say mid-tier private publishers have said, hey, we really want to go after publishing, and they've hired people, and they've gone out recruiting games to get them to publish on the platform. And it's like, yeah, you got a bunch of games. None of them are particularly great, because if it's great, the big guys get them. Mm-hmm. If it's mediocre, you've got them, and what does that do to your whole platform? So, there is a bias to big companies doing it, and that's the indie scene is hard and miserable, but that's how you learn.
All right, next up, this question from Victoria. She says, hey there, my name is Victoria. I happened to tune into your broadcast while my boyfriend was listening in the other room, and
he must have been listening really loudly.
Yeah, right? Listening to our voices just booming through his subwoofer, like on
Unbelievable.
11. She says, I tuned into you listening while my boyfriend was listening in the other room, and what caught my attention was the word cyberpunk. I'm an avid fan of this genre, though really it's more of a pop culture. The idea of one as an MMO is something that has fascinated me for quite some time. I've logged many hours on the internet just researching the possibility of having one made, and I think if done correctly, it could be absolutely wicked. There are tons of people out there who have pointed out that many challenges and obstacles to overcome if someone were to design one, but it's still a possibility. It simply requires a change in game mechanics. She follows up, she says, I'd love to see something done with this idea. I have a concept already sketched out, and I'm wondering if maybe you know who I could send it off to for consideration. I realize it could take years or possibly never for a game to be built, but I'd at least like for someone to review my story concept and basic game design. It could revolutionize MMOs as we know it, building on the foundation of what BioWare has presented us with Star Wars: The Old Republic. I tried BioWare, but they are not accepting outside proposals at this time, and I'm not sure what other game company would have the resources to devote to this game besides Blizzard. Though I've heard, wow, that's a long question. Though I've heard they're already working on a new MMO. Of course, I could start small and work on the project. All right, just basically to cut the chase. Victoria's got an idea for a cyberpunk MMO. She wants to get it in front of some people to look at it and give her some feedback or what they think. What does she do with it?
And it's an idea that could change the world too. Don't forget about that. It's a big idea. Now, there's two answers in Victoria. If you're listening to this, I'm going to say stick around till the end of the answer because it'll start out rough. Let me ask you this question, Gary. How many people in Hollywood have a treatment or a script that would be just awesome?
What's the population of Los Angeles? Because I'd probably say that I'd say that times probably 3 or 4. And that's about how many scripts there are in Hollywood. Everybody's got a script.
Everybody's got a script. And in game design, and you'll hear this regularly, everybody's got ideas. So, I was at Roadhouse last week and having dinner with the guys. And one of the guys, Tony Williams, who, he did Company of Heroes, Dawn of War, Need for Speed, NBA Live, just a ton of different games, right? So he's one of my design development heroes. A lot of respect for him. he's grumbling about the number of ideas he has that he doesn't have time to work on, doesn't have the wherewithal, and he's president of the company. So, fundamentally, people, the reason they're not looking for external ideas, and nobody really is, if they say not right now, they're just being polite. And so what you need to think...
They're already jam-packed with thinkers.
Yeah.
Like, they're already jam-packed with people who have 10 ideas a day that they want to execute on.
And everybody in the company that's making the game has 2 ideas of their own that they'd love their company to make. So there's an abundance of ideas. And actually, the funny thing is I was sitting in the car waiting for one of my kids, picking them up from somewhere, and I'm reading this book right now, and it's really interesting, and it's cyberpunk, and it's got all of the lore that would make an awesome MMO. They have a good reason as to why when you die, you come back. They've got all sorts of environments, great quest model, really good stuff. And I'm thinking about this. I'm saying, hey, this would be an awesome game. Now, I know, folks, let's, what's it going to take to do it? So I started thinking, well, first off, got to license the IP from the guy who wrote the book. Now, I know he signed a deal for a movie, and the second one in the trilogy was the one that really got me going. So if he signed it for a movie, did he give away any of the digital rights then? If he still has some of the digital rights, what's it going to take to buy them? So, some people are very savvy. Other people, we don't care what you do, but you're going to give us $2 million, $5 million in back end on this. So now it's not just a good idea, but I got to find somebody who's got millions of dollars to give this guy. Then I've got to find, let's say we do it small and smart. I got to find probably another $20 million to fund the development of this game at a time when folks aren't really keen on spending $20 million building an MMO. Then you've got the problem of building it. And, Victoria points out, this would be great if done right. Well, the if done right part, and especially with new game mechanics, is a couple of things. One is you've got to really find a way to test those game mechanics and see what impact that has in your entire game structure, the economy, all of those sorts of things. So that's an additional hurdle. More dollar signs, more risk. Because the real risk, and God, I can't tell you the number of games I've seen this happen to, is they get to the milestone which says we're delivering the beta. They deliver the beta, and word comes back and says, you might have done everything you said you were going to do, but this isn't any fun.
Mm-hmm. The fun factor is the hardest one to nail down.
It's brutal. You remember Tabula Rasa?
Mm-hmm.
So really bright team.
Loved it.
Richard Garriott, genius. They do it. They get to beta. No, all wrong. Redo it. Yank it.
Yeah.
Huge changes. Still couldn't get the traction. So, you put all of these things together, and you've got to realize that an idea is a massive amount of risk. It's there. Now, on the positive side...
So we're a lot of doom and gloom so far. We're a lot of all right, we're sorry, Victoria. We know you've got an idea. I mean...
Start swallowing Tylenol now.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is the truth of it. There's like I said, if you only have one idea in this industry, and whether it's television or the games industry, like you're in the wrong industry because you need to have like 30. But it
right
can't all be
idea
doom
for the
and gloom.
right person
Now,
at the right time.
If you do really have a good idea, we can't just say these things don't get made, because all good games do start with a good idea.
Exactly. So the opportunity, and so, while Victoria wrote quite a lot, she didn't give us her pedigree, so we don't know her education, financial situation. Clearly she lives somewhere that has thin walls, but they have a good sound system. So, aside from that, so knowing nothing about you, Victoria, the opportunity here. So let's say you're right, and this is a passion for you. your idea is great. I'd love, a cyberpunk MMO. Lots of people would. You want to do this. You've got that urge. It's not going to happen by somebody coming by and say, wow, that's a really smart idea. Let me give you some money. You're going to have to work it up. And so one of the ways of doing it is taking it into a game jam and say, hey, I'm not a programmer, I'm not an artist, but I'm a designer and I've got this idea. Let me pitch it to you. And you pitch the idea at people. You get a group of people who say, hey, that's a neat idea. Let's start mucking around with it. Well, what you might be able to get done is the core mechanic built out with real logic so that you can try it and you can have people try it. And, I see students all the time and they're running around with their paper prototypes. And so it's the game all done out in paper. And you sit there and they move things around and they keep track of numbers and stuff. But those are the things, because when you're playing those paper prototypes, then you get to the point of saying, hey, this is kind of fun. If you take it and you actually have a little bit of artwork and you've got this core mechanic and you get that coded up by finding people at game jams and working with them, now you've got something completely different. Now you've got an initial rough prototype that if you went up to somebody in the game business, they might say, hey, that's interesting now. Your game mechanic, which sounded like a good idea, but I hear a dozen of those a day, I can now see it working, and it is fun. That's great. I like the art treatment. The art makes sense. This is a good idea. Now let's start talking. I mean, I've met publishers who are listening to pitches, and they're saying that, hey, normally we don't fund on a pitch, even if the studio is a well-known, been there, done that, all that sort of thing studio. We still want to see a fairly deep prototype. We want to see lots of art assets.
They want to touch it. They want to feel it. They want to really get a sense of it. And I'll relate it over to a little bit even to like Gamebreaker, what we do with shows and stuff. And we get pitched all the time for show ideas and, oh, wouldn't this be a great idea? Wouldn't this be a great idea? Even internally with our writers and stuff. And the first thing I say to them all is, go do a 5-minute test. Like, get something together. Like, I could look beyond some of the roughness of it and this, that, but it's just as a game. Is the game fun? Is the show fun? And things like that. Another suggestion I would make too, you're talking about these game jams and stuff, those would be great. And also, if it's that much of a passion for her and she's really that serious about it, I think she's got to start hitting all the conferences like GDC and stuff and start making some friends with the people who are maybe in the industry who will maybe listen to her over a beer at a party or something. Because if you can because a lot of those guys right now, so these small groups you're talking about, like these strike force groups, they're also happening on the side with pros. So they're all doing the same thing. You've got these, you've got like a kick-ass artist teaming up with one other guy and one other guy, and they're building like a 3-4 person team, and they're building these little prototypes on the side to then go pitch their bosses or other companies. So you've got a lot of competition there, and you've got to somehow maybe infiltrate a little bit and try and get in the industry, even if you're not like working at one of these companies, to get something a little bit more than just on a piece of paper.
Yeah, and one thing I'll throw out there is if she can travel reasonably to the Boston metropolitan area, Mass Digi, who we've talked about, we run a game jam, and it'll be in March this year, and the announcement will come out with details in a few days. But the game jam's a pitch contest. You come in with an idea, and it's all about refining how you express the idea and all of that. And maybe if there's questions around how to pitch and what makes a good pitch, we could do a show on that. But things like that, there's more of these things that sort of pop up that you've got a shot of starting to get it made, and you can get somewhere. So, I'd say, hey, it's hard. You're not going to get anywhere sending it to somebody. Nobody's going to discover you who got discovered in a diner somewhere. I don't know, some actress.
And the other big risk you run with this is also if your idea is that unbelievable, like game changing, you really run the risk of somebody just stealing it from you. A big company, what they would do is not even open it.
So if you sent me something like that and I was working for a big company, I wouldn't even look at it, because if I looked at it and independently we came up with something close to that, we get sued. So it's, thanks. I didn't look at your attachment. I didn't look at the documents you sent me. Not going to do it.
Oh, but keep your chin up. I mean, check out, go to is it massdigi.com. Go check that out.
Yeah, massdigi.org.
Yeah, .org. Go check that out. The Game Jam is definitely a good thing to do, and you really need to probably hook up with even a small strike force. You need maybe 2-3 other people to maybe link up and try and get something. And I think the other really good thing is what you talked about, Monty, is getting it as a paper game. That is where almost every game still to this day. I think a lot of people don't realize that even MMOs still start with probably 4 or 5 people sitting around a table playing basically their form of Dungeons and Dragons with paper in some form or fashion. It still goes back to that.
It's all we have is D&D with nice graphics. It's just variations on the theme. I mean, we used to play so many different systems when I was in high school, and D&D, Traveler. There was another one that was more complex that a buddy of mine really liked. Anyway, all of that's what's behind all of the games that we play. But if you can make it fun on paper, you can sell it at a game jam, you can get to a prototype, and then you've got a chance. You got a chance to make something.
Don't give up. I mean, if it's your passion and you're that serious, it's not going to be easy, but don't give up. Make it happen. You'll make it happen. All right, next up,
let us know what happens.
Yeah, I'd love to know follow-up on that if there's any follow-up. So definitely send us some info, Victoria, if you get any farther with that. James Reese says, what happened to alternate payment methods for submodels? Like there was weekend day passes. Is it not profitable to offer them? Also, how come the struggling submodel games like Star Wars The Republic try something like lowering their sub fee? Why $15 a month or free to play? So why are we stuck with those 2 price points?
Yeah, so when you build the game, somebody wrote a business plan, and in the business plan, they said, we're going to make so many dollars based on $15 a month. Now, if you don't have the user base you need, the hardware that you've put in place, the bandwidth, all of that sort of stuff, per user is actually more expensive. So your cost basis per user is higher. You're making less money then. So your contribution to the company's off. So the company looks at it and says, this sucks. What are we going to do? Well, we've got a choice. We can drop the price. No one, I think one game a long time ago talked about coming in at a $20 price point, but
I think there's a couple options out there. I mean, doesn't EverQuest have some sort of $5 a month package?
Yeah. So there's in RuneScape, they do $5, but let's talk top tier MMOs. They've pretty much standardized on $15, and the sense in the business is from now on it's free to play, because on the free to play side, what they're showing is they're making a lot more than $15.
Mm-hmm.
So you're making more money, and you're either attracting as many users as you were before, but usually you're attracting a good bit more. So if you've got more users, more money, you might not have hit that target you told the CEO you'd get with $15 a month on Star Wars, but you're still making enough money to keep the game alive and patching and growing, and you hope to build, that support system of users who will keep paying for your game for 10, 15 years.
And I think the $15 price point, it's become such a norm. It's ingrained in this market that we're so used to paying it as gamers. And I forget what book it was. It was a really interesting book. You probably read it, but it talked about how, with anything in sales, when it comes to a dollar amount, it's not actually the amount of what it's sold at. Like the hardest sell is the 0 cents to 1 cent conversion.
Yeah.
Like if I can get you to spend 1 penny, you'll probably spend $15. But if I can't even get you to convert from 0, that's the hardest uptick. So it's almost like, if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's like, well, why would I come in at 5? If I can't get you at 15, I might not get you at 5 either. I guess the one thing I could there are some MMOs out there that definitely on the surface you can almost tell that they're not these AAA bigger MMOs that, you know, I feel like maybe could come in at a lower price point and maybe some more people like, I don't know. There's definitely another tier of them.
Yeah, but if they can make more money as a free to play than the $5, why come out at $5, right?
True.
You know, a lot of the MMOs that are going free to play, you know, offer up, hey, if you want to pay $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, we're going to give you, you know, stuff bundled in. Right. And that stuff that's bundled in is worth a little more than if you bought it, you know, individually. And the value to that is once you've got somebody's credit card and you're getting $15 a month, a lot of times they won't stop giving you that $15 a month. And what I've heard from a few developers is not only do they get a certain number of people still subscribing, but they also subscribe and do microtransactions. So they get more than $15 a month from the person.
All right, next up, this one from Lucas Mages. He says, hi, Gamebreaker team. First of all, a great show. Hope it will run for a long time. Keep watching, and it will. He says, now for my question. How can it be that game developers, especially in the RPG and MMORPG market, don't get the balance of their game right? And some specs or builds are completely overpowered in comparison. Does game testing not work, or are players just that much smarter? We get this question a lot, actually. I think we've answered this on another show. Some sort of...
Yeah. You know, it never hurts to go over that balance is a hard thing. Balance is a hard thing for a number of reasons. One is the more complex the game is, the more variables of, you know, attributes, armor, class, weapon, skills, area effects, blah, 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 blah. All of that is tough. So you try and balance it, and you're doing all this stuff because you want each class to be fun, unique, playable, and competitive. So, you know, they go through all of these exercises to balance it, and they think they've got something that's relatively reasonable. And what they don't want to do is keep messing with a class, you know, every week, 2 weeks. Oh, we're going to jiggle this a little bit, jiggle that a little bit. Because once that patch is released, then the players get their hands on it and they come up with, if you do this, this, and this, if you chain these things together, or if your party includes this group of people, all of that together, this unique combination is really powerful. One person figures it out, everybody in the game finds out, and then you're sitting there going, dang.
I think gamers think that there's like this mass computer where it can take every variable, like compound it out to just every combination possible and just spit out, you know, this number at the end just sort of shows every single combination of every kind of variable we could come up with possibly in this game works out to be balanced. That just doesn't really exist.
It doesn't exist. It's really hard to model, but it's also the thing that, like, if you're changing your game or you've got, you know, a major expansion coming up, okay, we're going to make all of the classes over the next year a little more robust because the next expansion is going to do this, and you've got to be able to deal this much damage, or you got to be able to handle this. So they'll start to migrate some stuff. And there are times that they look at things and they say, wow, this class, I remember a discussion one time, I think it was around a weapon. There was a class of weapon that was overpowered. And it was slightly overpowered. So, you know, let's say it was doing 10% more than other things. So everybody was going after it. It was a great thing. It's like, okay, well, to do it, we have to do all of these things. It's not causing that much trouble in the game. We let it go.
And that just infuriates the community. Like that answer you just gave will make gamers just completely flip their lid because they just don't want to think that they're just like looking at it going like, just whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, just let it go. Monty Sharma, follow him on the Twitter at Monster MONTSTER 27. And of course, if you have questions for Monty, you can send them in to Monty at Gamebreaker.tv. Always a pleasure, sir. Always good stuff for the insight.
Thank you, Gary. We'll talk to you soon.
Make sure to go over to Gamebreaker.tv all day, every day for all your video game news and watch Monty's Minute right here on Gamebreaker TV every week. We put it out on Wednesdays, so come on over on Wednesdays and look for it. Another great week. Don't forget to send in your questions. Monty at Gamebreaker.tv. Have an awesome week. We'll see you next week on Monty's Minute.